Ladies and gentlemen of the earth, we greet you in peace and friendship. We come from a planet far beyond this galaxy.
All of the stories that we've all grown up with and all of the movies that we've all seen, they do influence and color people's feelings about their own experiences and how people perceive things. So, look, it's a lot of fun to collect stories of UFOs. It's a lot of fun to sit around and tell some spooky stories and to speculate and think what if, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But there comes a time when you have to ask, all right, what's real here? You know, is this real? And that's a question that, frankly, not a lot of people are asking, and it's a question that's real hard to answer. It's a tricky thing.
96.9 Boston Talks.
It's impressive to me how UFOs have really captured the minds of the people of Massachusetts. My name is Matt Shearer. You're tuned into 96.9 Boston Talks at 8:17 in the morning. Already getting some talk about UFOs on the Facebook page. Reason we're talking about this, there was a sighting in Plymouth, Massachusetts this past week. Not just one, but many Plymouth residents actually saw the same thing, which they all just described as very slow-moving lights in the sky that they couldn't explain. All said that it was very orangey, but why listen to me? Why not talk to somebody who actually saw the lights? And not only that, but posted video on the YouTube. I put the YouTube video up on my blog at 969bostontalks.com so you can check it out for yourself. The woman's name is Felicia Femino. She joins me right now. Felicia, so for those who have not gone to my blog yet and seen the video, describe what you saw.
Okay, so it was Memorial Day weekend in 2012. My family and I were just kind of hanging around. We had like a little cookout in our backyard, and my mom's boyfriend had pointed out that there were some strange like orbs in the sky. They were orange, and they just kept coming. So then we all got outside and we were just sitting watching. They seemed to be in like triangle formation. So they'd come in like threes, and it was strange the way that they were maneuvering. It wasn't just like a plane, because normally we get airplanes, like small airplanes, coming and going, because the Plymouth Municipal Airport is right down the street. But it was something totally different, so we were kind of freaking out about it.
Shh! Look how close. Look at, oh my God! Look how close they are together. And that was separating.
UFOs?
Could be.
This is bizarre.
Look at that. Look at this.
Oh my God!
Are you getting it?
Yeah.
They're not even flying in like an organized path.
I know, it's bizarre.
They're
It's
like
weird.
They're like just.
Oh, they're gone. They're one. What is this?
What the fuck? I think we should start saying our prayers. This might be the end of time. And then somebody else who had seen the orbs actually contacted me and said that her father was actually on duty in the air traffic control station for Logan Airport, and he said that they had mentioned it, the pilots had mentioned that they had seen the orbs in the airspace and they couldn't identify what it was. Just for like 30 days, the recordings of air traffic control is available to the public. So after like a lot of searching, we did actually finally get that really small clip. But there was that brief moment when one pilot asked the other pilot to confirm whether or not he knew what he was seeing. And basically they just chalked it up to that is an unidentified object. Please shift your flight pattern to like such and such coordinates.
So I make numerical models of how planets interact with their disks and how planets form, and I study images from Hubble Space Telescope and other observatories to learn about where Earth came from and how planetary systems form and where life may have arisen in the universe and where we might be able to find it elsewhere. I'm Mark Kushner. I'm an astrophysicist here at Goddard Space Flight Center. Well, as a scientist, I have to say right away that there's no scientific evidence for the existence of life elsewhere. But take a look at my career path, what I've chosen to do with my life. Obviously, I have some gut feeling that there's extraterrestrial life out there for me to find and investigate. So when I hear claims that people have had some kind of interaction with a UFO or something like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is one of my former research advisors who used to fly experiments in enormous silver balloons. They weren't recognizable, and they were reflective, which made them look really strange. And he used to get people calling in whenever he would do these balloon flights, people calling in claiming to be seeing UFOs. And he knew, well, it's just my balloon. It looks really funny. It looks really strange. And it reflects the sky around it. It looks almost supernatural. So I haven't heard really any claims of UFO sightings that really impressed me. But I can't really, I can't speak for other people. If I just try to interpret the facts that I hear.
All right, so here's our categories for life. Now we're going to search, and of course what everyone wants to find somewhere else in the universe is this. The advanced civilization. Are we alone? Okay, well, I'm Grant Wilson. I'm a professor of astronomy at the University of Massachusetts. Since a lot of people are interested in aliens, I spend one class, which is about an hour and 15 minutes, talking in general about life in the universe. And we end with a calculation, a famous calculation, known as the Drake equation, where we actually calculate what we believe to be the probability that there are other advanced civilizations in the galaxy. So the Drake calculation is a very simple equation that is just multiplying together probabilities, or really one might say guesses, about the state of the universe and the state of life in the universe. Okay, it's very difficult to come up with a general estimate of that probability, and here's why. Most of the terms in that equation that I was describing, all the terms get multiplied out. And most of the terms we just don't know. So you have to guess. And guessing is a very, very bad situation to be in as a scientist. So a reasonable estimate spans all the way from that nearly every solar system has an advanced species on it, which we know isn't true, or we think isn't true, to there's only one in the entire galaxy, and that's us. So unfortunately, the equation doesn't tell us a lot yet. Once you let your imagination wander, which you are allowed to do in this case, because there's so little data that actually constrains us, you can imagine all sorts of possibilities. You can imagine aliens living on Earth-like planets. You can imagine an alien species so advanced that they're able to build their own planet and live in the interior of it, for example. And you can even go a step beyond that and imagine civilizations that can harness the entire power of a galaxy. So unfortunately, we're not very constrained in what we can imagine, and so sort of as long as we don't violate any laws of physics, we're free to imagine whatever we want.
They were driving over a covered bridge down in Sheffield, Mass, and he just saw lights, just lights, And the next thing they knew, the mother was in the passenger seat and the grandmother was outside the vehicle, and he has memories of being on this spaceship and just a lot of total confusion.
I work for the Great Barrington Historical Society, so we typically, I guess in plain English, deal with more mainstream history. But for me, I was very clear that I didn't want to be I didn't want us, as the Great Barrington Historical Society, to be seen as somebody that was inflexible, or an organization that was inflexible in terms of accepting new ideas and items into the collection. To me, this was another story, one that we have hundreds and hundreds of stories in our collection, even the stories that go along with particular artifacts. To me, this was another story that needed to be told. It was part of our history here. When Tom first approached me about accepting this material into the collection, he had a long list of items that he was going to share with the Historical Society for the records. And it was everything from eyewitness accounts to a copy of the Hynek report. There was also, he explained that there was evidence that his case had been brought, meaning his family's case, had been brought before the UN. So there were a couple of items that to me really stood out that I thought, wow, this is there are a lot of primary source. There's a lot of primary source material on this. So I accepted his offer of bringing this material into our collection. This is what Tom drew after he saw after his encounter in the late 60s. This was up on the schoolroom board, blackboard of his drawing of the event. The one eyewitness account that we have right now, his name is Tom Warner, and he himself experienced the event, and at the outset was willing to work with us on the display down here and what have you.
I live in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. My family's been in the same house for 6 generations, so you might say we're a bit local here in Great Barrington, here, the Warners. The story started out, I was actually at a neighbor's house, which is right across from where we're sitting here, and the oddest thing about the whole thing was it started out with mental telepathy, which I had never experienced. You got to remember, I was 10 years old in 1969, and I looked at the girl, my neighbor, Debbie. I said, I have to go home. And she goes, why? I said, I think God's talking to me from those clouds. It's like I'm hearing a message from those clouds. And I started walking across the lot, and then the light just dropped right down over me, and it was a UFO, and it came right over the horizon and stopped right over my head. And the UFO, I would say, was probably about 40 feet from side to side. I would say 15 to 20 feet high. The UFO was within 35 feet of my head. And right after that, a light came on, a beam, and at that moment I couldn't run, and my brothers were yelling, run, run. I said, I can't. And this beam was literally holding me right on the ground. And I remember I'm there, and it was mental telepathy again saying, just be still, don't worry, just lay still, it'll be done in a minute. And then it was over. The light went off, and the UFO slowly rised up to clear the trees. It had to rise. It was so low, it had to rise to clear the trees. And then it slowly went down and went slowly to the west. And then it was gone. And about 2 weeks later, we had another incident. I was having a catch with my brother. I threw the ball to my brother. He threw it back. I threw it to him. He threw it back. I threw it this way, and the ball went by me, and I had total confusion. And at that point, the neighbor was running up saying, did you see the UFO? Did you see the UFO? It was right over Tommy's head. And honestly, I had no idea what went on. I was just oblivious to the whole thing. Only that they pointed it out where it had gone to, and it was up in the sky. Then it was kind of low at that point, and then...
Do you think it was the same UFO that was there the first time?
Probably. Most likely. Most likely that I was tagged for something. The most bizarre part of the whole thing, and it's hard for me to tell you this, I met a guy probably 3 years after that, and he had it was a complete stranger, and he said, you've had a close encounter. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, because I didn't want to talk about it. And he goes, yeah, you've seen a UFO up close. I said, how would you know that? And he looked at me, and he said, because I remember you and your brother, and I was on that UFO. I may have been one of the only witnesses that was witnessed both on a UFO and on the ground. He doesn't want to talk about it. I almost had him to discuss the whole matter, and he said he was done with the subject. He couldn't, he literally says, I cannot deal with talking about it or thinking about it. He put it behind him.
Do you think their intentions are positive or negative, or what do you think?
I think positive. I do. I don't see this War of the Worlds or anything like that. There is no bad or good. It's just different. And that's how I see that. I just see that it's different.
Through their appearances and through their various guises through which this intelligence has interacted with humanity over time, there's some kind of agenda here. I'm not sure what it is, but my feeling is that it's negative. For many years, I was a member of the Mutual UFO Network, which is the largest UFO study organization in the world. MUFON has chapters in every state and in countries on pretty much every continent except Antarctica, I believe. But now I am an independent researcher. I investigate UFOs basically on my own. I publish my findings on a website that I maintain. I also share my findings with other researchers and investigators that I work with. The basic aspect of a UFO investigation starts with a witness who has seen something that they can't identify or that they can't explain. It then goes to an investigator whose job it is basically to try to identify what was seen, to try to come up with a prosaic logical explanation for the sighting. In my time as a UFO investigator, I investigated literally hundreds of cases. The number of cases where the investigation progressed to the point where I would produce a written report were smaller, a few dozen perhaps. The Bridgewater Triangle is an area in Massachusetts that centers around the Hockomock Swamp, which is a large swamp that spans the borders of several towns, mostly in and around Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts. But it's a larger area than that. There's a tremendous level of paranormal activity reported there. Virtually all the UFO sightings that I investigated there were inexplicable. I couldn't come up with explanations for them. I think it's fair to say that most UFO investigators believe that some UFO sightings represent extraterrestrial spacecraft of some kind, aliens from another planet. I really haven't found any evidence in my studies to suggest that these are nuts and bolts extraterrestrial spacecraft. But in my research, historical research, looking at UFO sightings over time, I've come to determine that UFO sightings are a constant, that human beings have observed these things on planet Earth for as long as we have records of human observation. And I guess on the whole, I become really suspicious that wherever these things are coming from, that it could be based on this planet. If I'm correct in my theory that some UFO sightings represent encounters with a non-human intelligence based on this planet, it's possible that there could be some kind of entire class of beings here, far more advanced than us. They may have been here for much longer than we've been here. Something that I've learned kind of the hard way about investigating UFO sightings is that if you look closely enough at UFOs, they start to look back at you. And it's not a positive thing. It can be really, really dangerous. And I've known over the years a lot of investigators who kind of got close to this, to the truth about it. And I've known of a lot more people who got close to the truth about it. And the results for them were really negative. I had colleagues that died. I had colleagues who had terrible disasters in their personal lives as a result of investigating this stuff. I had documents go missing from my home only to reappear months later as photocopies of the original. I had unmarked black helicopters hovering over my house for so long that it made the front page of my local newspaper. I had people stalking me, stalking people in my life, people who were impersonating police and firemen. I mean, it was a terrifying time, and in more recent years I've taken a step back from it, and this stuff has really ceased, and I'm grateful for that. I got contacted by a guy out in the central part of the United States who had heard a bunch of my interviews, and he thought there was something to my theory, something to what I was saying, and he had a lot of questions of his own. So finally one day I said, look, what's your background in this subject? You know, your questions are great, but what's your angle on this? And he said, well, I was afraid of the day that you'd ask me that, because I don't think you're going to like my answer. The reality is that I'm a Baptist minister, and I use your findings in my sermons to my congregation. I believe that UFOs are the devil.
Has anybody tried to have me rationalize this? You know, the first one was my priest. You know, you tell a 13-year-old kid, you know, no, that must be Satan. You know, like, come on, you gotta have a better reasoning behind that, you know?
There are religions that are based upon UFOs. So Raelians, Scientology, Unarians, in Nation of Islam. There are a bunch of different religions that are actually, their theology is centered around the idea that there are extraterrestrials out there. So in some sense it is easy to imagine why people might claim that there are actual flying saucers out there. So one of the most interesting UFO-based religion, and now sociologists actually use the word new religion movements, NRMs, is Raelians. And it is a religion whose founder, Rael, is a French-Canadian, and he was a race car driver and also a folk singer. And in the 70s, he claimed that he was taken on a flying saucer, and then these alien beings gave them a message that said that, well, all of humanity has been, and actually all of life here on Earth, has been designed by these alien beings in laboratory. And he was given this message because I think his father was an alien, so and his mother was a human being, so he was a hybrid species. Well, they really don't believe in a divine being or in a god, but rather they believe that all of life here on Earth is being built by engineers or you can imagine technicians who are just more advanced than humans. Their calendar starts from 1946, the year that Rael was born, but it is also 1 year after, again within the Raelian theology, 1 year after the first detonation of the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, and so they use it AH after Hiroshima. So they believe that Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, Buddha, they were all part alien. And so they were all hybrids. And so they say that, well, what they were teaching was actually not something that they disagree with or that is something that doesn't fit in this thing. But in fact, at the time, humans did not have the ability to understand the message of these aliens known as Raelians.
This is what the extraterrestrial said.
We created humanity. You mistook us for gods. We were the ones who started all the religions on Earth. And now that humanity is capable of understanding this, we would like you to build an embassy where we can land officially in front of everyone.
Oh, and I should also mention one other thing about Raelians, really crucial, and that is, in 2002, they actually made headlines in the New York Times and all over the world as well, because they claimed to have cloned a human baby. And they think because cloning is doing the work in God's image, because if we were created by aliens in a lab with a cloning mechanism, then cloning we should and can and we should do it.
Sometime we'll talk about the real tough, deep issues about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not now. But, you know, I think people, I don't think it serves any purpose. I really don't. I think that, you know, you just look out and you see the blue skies and no, the top of the blue skies isn't where this ends. It goes on and on and on and on and on, you know. And what we have here, the air that we breathe, the planet we live, we have to really take care of it. Because we're not jumping off to another planet anytime soon. We don't have that technology to say, okay, we messed this one up, we'll go somewhere else. We don't have that technology. And that's the whole message behind the whole thing. Take care of what we have.